This is how you can make $1 million in GCI as a real estate agent. Welcome guys. In this video, my name is Michael. I help real estate agents get more listings online. And in today's video, we're gonna break down exactly what it takes for you to make $1 million in GCI. We're gonna go on the computer right now. So if you haven't done the math yet, you need to start doing it, because that's how you know exactly what actions you need to take in order to hit that goal. You know, most real estate agents, they say they want to make $1 million in GCI. They don't even know what it takes to even make 500K or 300K, and they just are dreaming, right? So what you need to do, first of all, is establish the average home price in your marketplace. So let's say it's $500,000, and let's say you take on average 2%, right? So you can actually play around with these numbers, and it's really easy to do just with your phone calculator or online and figure that out, right? So your average commission is 10 grand, let's say. You need to figure out what's the average commission first before anything else. So let's say the goal is $1 million in GCI, right? Let's say you want to make $1 million in GCI. That means you need on average approximately 100 transactions for the year, right? Now, if you take 100 transactions divided by 12 months, it gives you around 8.3 transactions. So let's say 8 transactions, right? Because some of them will actually be a bit higher than this, right? So 8 transactions, and now you need to know your closing rate as well. So if you're not tracking your closing rate, you need to start doing that, because that's how you'll figure out how many listing appointments you need in order to close 8 listings, right? So now I'm just assuming basically that all of your listings, you're selling them. And the reason why I'm focusing on how many listings, here I put like transactions, but actually I'll just change it to listings, is because with listings, you'll be able to scale much quicker compared to working with buyers. So I don't take into consideration buyers. Like how I see things in order to reach that goal is buyers are just a bonus, but you should focus on the listings in order to hit that $1 million goal in GCI. So the closing rate, let's say it's 30%, right? So 1 out of 3 that you have in terms of listing appointment, you actually end up listing. Now that means that you need 24 listing appointments per month. Okay, so how did I end up with 24? Just take that 30% closing rate. That means in order to get 1 listing, you need 3 listing appointments. You just take that 3 listing appointments, you multiply it by 8. So it gives you 24 listing appointments per month. And you take that divided by 4 to get the weekly listing appointments. So that means you need 6. So the question now is, how can you get 6 listing appointments per week, every single week for 52 weeks of the following weeks? And that's like what you should be focusing on, like nothing else. Stop focusing on like the $1 million or like, you know, the penthouse you'll be buying, or like the $1 million property you'll be buying. Like stop focusing on that stuff. Like start focusing on how can I get 6 listing appointments every single week? Because if you get that and your closing rate is in KPI, meaning like 30%, and you're able to actually sell all the listings that you get, you don't have to worry about like all the things in the Ferraris and all that stuff. Like you'll be able to buy them, you know, if you actually want that when you reach that point, or your freedom, or the fact that you want to travel, for example, right? No matter like what is it that you want that $1 million for, like stop thinking about the end goal. Start thinking about like what you need to do, and start thinking about like how can you get that 6 listing appointments per week. Ask yourself like, how many listing appointments did you get last week, right? So it probably wasn't 6 if you're not on track of hitting 1 million right now. And maybe if you had 6, are you able to sustain that? Like, are you able to do that every single week? Because what happens is with most real estate agents, all of their efforts, they stop them because they get busy when they get the listing. For example, when they do cold calling, and then they get the listing appointments, and then they go on the listing appointments, they drive, they do all the preparation and all that stuff. And now they're stuck and they have to, you know, start back again like in 2 weeks. So they stop for a week to do the prospecting, and that's how they are stuck in the business. So essentially, let's look at your options. So you have the cold calling, right? You could do that, and let's say the average conversion rate of like call to appointment is around 2%, right? Could be lower, could be higher, depending on your experience, your neighborhood, and also how competitive it is in your area. But the average is 2%. So that means you need 300 calls per week, and that's 50 calls per day, 6 days a week. Let's say you work 6 days a week. So it's actually doable if you just do that, or if you have someone just doing that for you, right? So let's say in my company, like I'm working with like a lot of ISAs, right? Like we have ISA partners for our clients, and one ISA full-time can do around 100 to 200 calls per day. So it's definitely doable to do 50 calls per day. The thing is, like, how doable is it with your current schedule? Because you're not necessarily an ISA that just sits in front of the computer with the headphones on and do this like day in, day out, right? You have other things to do. You have your clients to talk to. So that's where it gets tough a little bit with the cold calling if you don't have someone else to help you. Now, that's what I was saying. Basically, if you have the listing appointments in your agenda, you won't be able to actually sustain 100 calls per day or 50 calls per day. Let's just say 50 calls per day. Just yourself. You would need some help, or you need someone to help you with the cold calling, basically. Now, if we're talking about door knocking, the average conversion rate is still 2%, but the 2% here is the conversion rate from knock. So let's say for each door that you knock on, you'll basically get the sell. So the sell here is like the listing. So, you know, just did a quick research on like the actual average conversion rate on door knocking. Could be higher as well. Like I know some agents that actually get a better conversion rate on door knocking than 2%, just because they are better in person than on the phone, and it's less competitive as well because there's like a direct human contact compared to cold calling. But still, at the end of the day, you need like 400 door knocks per week to get 8 listings, right? So that's 66 door knocks per day, 6 days a week. So that's a lot of 6, but essentially like 66 door knocks per day, all right? 6 days a week. And that take you, let's say 1 to 2 hours, could take you a bit longer as well if you're not used to it, or if you have to walk a lot as well to actually do these door knocks. So it's doable. Again, depending on your marketplace, where you live, the season, like obviously it'll take you more time during the winter. And I don't know anyone that actually successfully does door knocking during the winter. Or where I live in Montreal, like it's just like super cold and no one really wants to open their doors when it's like minus 20 degrees outside. So I don't think the door knock is a sustainable thing depending on where you live. But again, it needs discipline, grit, and hustle to do this 6 days a week. Now, let's talk about organic content, because that's another strategy you can actually use to reach that goal. So it's hard to give an average, right? Compared to like all these cold calling, door knocking, and the lead gen, where we can actually do an average and it's really easy to break down the numbers. But with organic content, it's a bit more like wishy-washy. It's a bit like up in the air. It's harder to track. It's less quantifiable, right? So I see it with my own brand. I know it has an impact, a positive impact. I know I'm getting clients from it. I know I'm getting traction and quality subscribers and followers. But the thing is, it's really hard to track. Like, you know what I mean? It's hard to know exactly what piece of content brought that, because it's like a compounding effect, right? Like you're building a brand essentially. So a bit like the big brands you see out there, like McDonald's, Starbucks, like you're seeing these ads everywhere and you're just seeing them everywhere as well. So unconsciously in your mind, you always know about them, and you always could think about them when you are hungry or when you want that coffee, right? So it's less quantifiable than the other strategies, but it definitely works, and I think you should actually capitalize on it, especially if you want to reach that $1 million GCI goal, because no other agent is building a brand. They don't build a brand just because they're lazy, or because they're scared to be on camera, or because they think social media is a waste of time, or they don't like social media. Here's the thing, I don't like social media neither. Like I think it's a waste of time if you are on it to consume and watch TikToks and what other people are doing. That I believe is a waste of time. Now, do I think it's useful to reach your goals? Definitely, like for sure. Like you don't want to be on the consumer side, you want to be on the creator side, right? If you want to make money. So it takes time, but if you do that consistently for like 1, 2, 3 years straight with a full content strategy with 3 to 7 pieces of content per week, repurposed everywhere, could get you there to $1 million in GCI if you actually focus on this heavily. Meaning, what I mean by like a full content strategy is not just focusing on YouTube, for example, or Facebook, but focusing on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, pretty much everything, and building a database of email lists of potential clients and emailing your list like 1 to 2 times per week to always stay in front of them, to give them value, to give them tips and tricks. So just with this, you can actually build in 2 to 3 years, realistically, $1 million business in real estate. Now, it's not just about quantity, it's also about quality. So if you make trash videos, then you're gonna get trash subscribers as well, right? And they're not going really to trust you or like you or stick with you on the long term, or like convert, right? They won't necessarily buy or sell with you necessarily. Now, The final strategy I want to talk about is paid lead gen. So running ads on YouTube, running ads on Google, running ads on Facebook to get leads. Now, I won't talk about the exact like conversion rates and stuff like that because that depends on how you structure things. If you want to get more volume or if you want to get more quality. So obviously the more volume you go for, the less the conversion rate will be. So if you generate 100 leads, for example, but they're not necessarily qualified leads, then obviously you'll be converting like 1 to 3% out of them. But if you generate, let's say 10 leads, but these are really qualified leads, they've been vetted before and they filled out a more rigorous form, then you could convert actually at 5 to 10% of these leads, right? And we're seeing that right now with some of our clients. And I think it's more effective to do it that way, but I won't get into that subject right now because I actually have other videos talking about this on my channel. But let's talk about the average cost per listing appointment or buyer's consultation. So what we found is $150 to $500 per listing appointment or a buyer's consultation if you're also looking to generate buyers from the paid lead gen strategies. Now, and basically that's on a 6-month period, right? So obviously some of them will take time to convert into a listing appointment or a buyer's consultation because some of them are not ready right now. But what we've seen essentially is like with $2,000 in ad spend per month for one of our clients on my channel, you can look it up, but we brought them $250,000 in GCI in 6 months, right? So that's $500,000 per year in GCI. And the first 3 months was $1,000 per month that we invested, and then after that it was $2,000, right? So if you take it, so it's basically like so it's $9 grand invested to get $250,000 in GCI in 6 months. So realistically, that means that if we spend $4,000 per month in ad spend, we could actually have reached $1 million in GCI, but they just didn't have the capacity to take on more. So if you have the backend systems to do that and to spend, let's say 2 to 4 grand per month in ad spend or more potentially, then go ahead and do so. But the thing is that you need to understand when you spend 2,000, 4,000, 5,000, or even 10 grand per month on paid ads to generate real estate leads, is that, you know, you need to have the backend in place to actually be able to scale to that point, because you can't just start at $2,000 in ad spend if you never run ads before and you don't know what it's like after you generate the leads. For example, if you don't have your conversion rate on point, if you're not calling the leads within 15 minutes, if you don't have a system to qualify the leads and nurture them effectively before you actually scale, you're going to lose your money. So that's why you need to be ready to handle that lead flow and have all the other pieces in place before you actually do the paid lead gen stuff. Otherwise you just burn through money so quickly. So yeah, that's why basically my company and we help our clients set up the whole system behind it before they run ads. But essentially these are 4 strategies you can use to reach $1 million in GCI. I want you to actually do the math, so you know exactly in your neighborhood, in your marketplace, how many transactions you need, how many listing appointments you need, more importantly, every single week to reach that $1 million goal in GCI this year so that you can actually get it. That's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. My name is Michael. Like I said, I want you to subscribe to the channel so that you are up to date with the latest strategies on how to get more listings for your real estate business. And I also want you to like the video so that it helps the channel. Now, I'll see you in the next video.